As a DP, most of the time in the industry, you're working with a director or a production house or producers to plan a shoot ahead of time, to get everything in order, make a proper storyboard or proper shot list, schedules for shoot days, all this stuff. But then again, there's also times where you're hit up last minute and you got to make it work if you want to get the project done. This is one of those times. So how all this came about was, it was a last minute request that came into us. I was actually working with an agency in Cincinnati at the time called Rudy Creative. And I was actually in Florida. It was a Thursday. We got the text, I guess the call came in to our creative director, to our CEO. He let all of us know, and then we kind of just had to plan there. And we were shooting the next day, that Friday at like 2 p.m., I believe. So I was already booked to come back to Cincinnati, thankfully, around, I think it was like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. The next day. So I'm flying back in from Florida back to Cincinnati. Hardly any time. We didn't have time to storyboard, shot list, pre-pro, really do any of that. Thankfully, they had already done hundreds and hundreds of these same episodes, just with different personalities, different people. Creatively, there wasn't much on us other than like shooting there, and then like getting there and figuring out all like the layout. Because again, we weren't able to do a scout because it was the next day at 2 o'clock. Thankfully we had all the gear that we needed. I think we had to rent some stuff, but there's a production house we just got it from, like Easy Rigs, and I think it was just that. So for this project, I was not the DP for this project. My homie Nic Brown was the DP for this project. I was just a camera operator. So technically I was cam operator A, and then Allan was cam operator B, technically in this sense. So Nick and myself were on FX6s on Easy Rigs. He had a DJI Ronin 2, I believe. As you can see by this picture here, let's lock it so I don't mess it up, get my brush right. He was with a R2 here, and this is Nick in the middle. He has a Ronin 2, and then he had this, right, and then just the gimbal was on there. Pretty simple stuff. FX6 is there as well. And then he had a double arm. I don't know the exact what this is, but it's essentially a double arm Easy Rig. And then here's myself looking crazy, a lot shorter hair back then. I just had a regular Easy Rig Mini Max, and then FX6 with an 85 is what the main. So when they were doing the talking heads, in the bulk of the shoot, that was what I was rocking. And then Allan is here to the right. He had a same Easy Rig, and then he had an FX3 with, I believe it might have just been a 35, or no, I believe it was a 50, 1.4 he had. So all of these BTS shots, besides this drone shot, but like these shots here, they were all done with, I had the FX6 Easy Rig on Easy Rig with the, I think it had a 2470 or 7200 at the time. And then also I put an FX3 on just a Ronin RS2 to get some cool, because you can put it in that 360 roll mode, so it essentially just like rolls like pretty slow. So with some of those, but like all these shots of the glass, the signage, a couple signs like the roads, Greer, and this was a cool shot. I wanted to get Main Street. It was on Main Street. That's a big street in Cincinnati, so we wanted to make sure we got that. But they went quick. This from the sidewalk was the name of the shop, and then these little B-roll little shots here, and then it goes into the piece. But essentially what happened was we got there, I can't remember what time we started shooting, maybe like 2. We got there like 12. Our gaffer got there. We've never seen the spot before, so we had to set up essentially on the whim, like what lighting would look best. For the B-roll, I think we just blasted a 600 or 300 at the ceiling, and then one on with the softbox with the key, just to get for these inside shots here. Here, right, we just had a couple lights, and then we had some practicals that were pretty cool here. You can kind of see them in the glass too. But we only had like about an hour and a half, 2 hours to get a plethora of B-roll shots. So we kind of just shot whatever visually we just had in our head that looked cool, and would kind of add to the piece, right? Add to the vibe of the sneaker shop, downtown, the city life, just that vibe, right, that we knew that the complex was looking for, right? So in the edit, they could easily piece together and wouldn't have to worry about too little shots to where they had to work with them. We wanted to give them a plethora so that they had options to work with, which is always a good thing. That's always one of my things that I love to do when I'm on set or shooting. So pretty much the lighting setup was very minimal. We had, I believe it was 1/600 on a just combo stand with a reflector that was just like a streaking against the wall, like across the wall. Because the way the shop was set up, it was very, see if I can draw it. Like it was, the door was like here, right? Let's say, and then it kind of extended the wall. So it's like the shop front was here, because downtown it's pretty minimal. And then it kind of just went like this, right? This was pretty much it. So we didn't have a lot of room in the sense to get big light sources or whatever. And all of this is windows. Let's get a different color here. Right, this whole thing is windows, including the door, right? It's all windows. So obviously that was our motivating light for our keys, right? So we essentially had to shoot light from this way, right? We had to, because that was the only thing that made sense for the piece, and for continuity's sake, that was the only thing that made sense, right? So with that, right, you're such a narrow space and you have to key from one side. It was very just not the most ideal situation, because we were so limited, right? But what ended up happening was, right, so since we had to light from this side, what we ended up doing, or what our gaffer ended up doing, he's really dope guy, really smart, and he knew technique wise all of his stuff, right? So he ended up having like 1/600 here in this corner, and then like this was the checkout area. So it's already another bump out, right? Was maybe like here, there, right? And then this was kind of like the back wall, I guess. And then there's like storage and stuff over here. There's like a curtain where he essentially popped out of when he first came into frame, introduced, right? But this was kind of the checkout area. So we were again limited. So now we only had this much space to work with for that entryway, right? So what we ended up doing, our gaffer ended up doing, was put 1/600 on a stand here and then kind of just blast it into the ceiling, like into the ceiling, and kind of bounce and just light up the whole room. I believe it was 600D. He just put a reflector and did that. And then he had another 600 that was here that had a softbox. I'm not the best drawer. Well, that's not bad. It's pretty bad. But he had it was not the regular softbox that comes with the aperture lights. He bought the bigger one. I don't know what the name is, but he had that just with that, and there's just one piece of diffusion, maybe two pieces of diffusion there on the front of it. There was no grid or anything like that, just so we could, like, our levels would be, we wanted to light the space and not anybody's face, right? Because we were going to be moving around a lot. Speed himself, if you've watched any of his streams, he's very active. He bounces around a lot. He doesn't stay in one spot. And we never expected him to, or anybody, the host or anybody else to. So we wanted to light the whole space. So this is essentially like what we did. And then I believe we had some tubes and maybe another kicker like over here to kind of give some fill and or a hair light depending on where they were. But yeah, so that was it. Like, we had to key from this side because that was just what the shop gave us. So this is what I was talking about, right? This is a BTS frame. There's myself on the left here. There's Nic in the middle, and then Allan on the right. This is our director, Pablo, I believe his name was. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was just looking on the shoulder, making sure everybody gets a shot. So this is what I was talking about, like A cam is essentially getting this shot. B cam, which is what I was cam op, was I'm getting Speed himself, and then Allan was getting the host, right? So that was essentially just your typical interview 3-camera setup. Nothing new there, pretty simple stuff there. But with our light, right? Oh, they also had this cool practical in the back with this greenery, which is cool. I think we left it on. And here's another BTS frame. You see it here, right? This is the one, and you could see the spillage it's giving right? It's hitting the wall here, but it's also, it had Fresnel, 2 times Fresnel on it. That was giving it more power, right? Double the output, and just boom, hitting the ceiling. And then this was our big key. And then we put these, it was nighttime by this, but we also put down the shades just further control the light, because obviously the sun was setting and it was going to be changing. So we just killed it off, or our gaffer did. I didn't do it. And yeah, this is us getting set. The little intro shots, or the intro sequence, right, of these sneaker shop owners talking, and then there's one in the back, the third owner in the back, and they kind of just a little skit. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, here's another frame, BTS frame, that you can see myself. I am here. Our director is there. This is our host of our show, and then obviously we have Speed here. This was a light that we had going. This was the 300. They moved the 300, and I believe the 600 they put just out of frame behind here, going and kind of just hitting both of them. So maybe it was like here, but just behind them, not below them, right? And it was hitting kind of both of them. So it key both, and obviously from the opposite side, right? We had Nic here, and then we had, or he was actually on the 18. He was our 18 Zeiss, maybe he was on a 14. I can't remember. But we moved this to give us more bounce and more exposure in the middle of the scene. And it was, I believe it was hitting this just a floppy, a bounce board, just to further bounce, give us exposure, bring up levels. Pretty simple stuff. Here's a closer frame. I believe I could not for the life of me stop laughing at what Speed was saying during the shoot. I had to hold in a lot, because it's just so unexpected. As far as like what he was gonna say, you never knew. And we just went with the flow. And a lot of time, since my camera was I was directly on Speed, he would move a lot. So a lot of time I would have to essentially like pre-figure out what he's gonna do, or like try to stay with him. And sometimes it's hard. You don't want any jitters or any crazy movements, because it's just a talking head. So that was another like roadblock, I guess, or a slight problem, inconvenience, but it ended up working out. And here, yeah, that's just me with that. You can see all the rig, pretty cool. 300 there, and then this is Nic's big old beast of a setup here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A big crew, but it paid off, because the video has 3.8 million views, almost 4 million views. I think within the first week it had 1 million, which is pretty cool. I personally had never shot anything of that scale before. That many eyes were on it, so it was really cool to see that. And it was just cool that like Complex trusted us, trusted Rooted, trusted myself to shoot this. And yeah, just another cool opportunity, and kind of shows that like, even though sometimes you don't get a pre-pro, sometimes you don't get a scout, you don't get to plan anything, and sometimes there's not already a shell of what you're creating. Sometimes it's from scratch, but you kind of essentially just have to go for it, not necessarily wing it, but almost wing it, right? And kind of just trust your instincts, trust your skill, your ability, and go out there and do it. Because at the end of the day, if you mess it up, you're still going to get more projects. If you crush it, you're going to get more projects. Like, it's not the end of the world. And yeah, so yeah, if anything I can give you guys from this video, it's just that say yes to projects, no matter how big or small, especially if you're starting out, but also as you get better and more skilled, right? You get farther into the industry, you can still pick up these projects that are last minute that necessarily you may not want to shoot, but it could be a project that you love, and like this one for me, it's one of my favorite pieces to this day still. I say that about a lot of shoots, but this is definitely one of them. And yeah, it was just a cool thing to shoot. It was stressful as hell during it, before, during, and after. Not necessarily after, but now it's almost a year later, and I can probably say like it was definitely worth it to shoot this. And yeah, so but that's it for today's video. I will see you guys in the next video. Cool. Peace.